Hi folks, Lincoln Quilliam here, your Run Director of the Canani Mountain Run. We are here on country, on Canani, and it's a great privilege to be here today with you, but also with a couple of palawa community members who we'll introduce shortly. The Canani Mountain Run is all about stories and connecting you with the stories of the mountain and sharing the stories that the mountain has to share with you. And a big part of that is the Tasmanian Aboriginal, the palawa people, and their stories, the history and stories around what Canani means to them. And it's a great privilege, and I'm super stoked for the opportunity that Events Tasmania and the federal government, with some funding, has given us to be able to meaningfully capture those stories and share them with you. So here we are today at Sphinx Rock on Canani. Amazing backdrop of the organ pipes here, and we'll be talking with Sharnie Reid and Jai Crosswell shortly. Sharnie, thanks for sharing your story with us. I wonder if you could tell us a little about the story behind the design.
Firstly, thank you for in allowing me to be a part of the whole kind of project and event, and to be able to contribute one of my kind of aspects through art and the stories that I am privileged to be a part of through the Aboriginal community around the values and the spirituality and the creation stories for palawa people. So the design that Jai and I worked on together, has a big part of it is about the first black man, first Aboriginal, and how in the creation time when he was first created, he didn't have any joints, he didn't have any knees, so he couldn't sit down, and his movement was restricted. And then through that creation story, Moini basically comes along and cuts him some joints and cuts off his tail, and rubs ointment on them and gives him the ability to move. And so I thought that was a really lovely kind of part of one of our creation stories to include in the design, because let's face it, this event really is about movement.
Yep.
And the way we as spiritual beings, as humans, actually connect with country. And so I thought it was a really lovely story to be able to include in the design for the t-shirts. And we then, wanted to make sure, and through Jai's influence, that we also had some of our ancient cultural symbols as a part of that. And so what we actually have is a design that reflects not only the shape that, of Canani the mountain, which is highly recognisable right across the state, and further than that even, but also the connection of the ancient culture of palawa people. We're one of the most ancient continuous cultures in the world, and our stories, our connections and our spirituality around country is very much a big part of who we are. And we really wanted that to be reflected through those cultural symbols within the design. So that's kind of the stories and the way that design has come together through collaboration with Jai and I.
Yeah. And there's some other elements to the design, I believe, that water and some of the some of the endemic flora or endemic plants that only occur in Tasmania.
Well, that's right. It's an actual design that's really reflective of a specific space, and some very very cultural values found within that space. So across the landscape and the mountainscape, the skies and the oceans and the rivers that are all connected. They might not all be here, but they are all very much connected. So we really wanted to make sure they were reflected in the design as well. So through the particularly for me, through the flow of water, that had to be a big part in the design.
This has been an amazing opportunity for me to connect with Nipaluna and Kunanyi on a very deep level. This has been an amazing experience for me, having grown up on the northwest coast in a little town called Marrawar. The place where, and very similar to Kunanyi, a place called Premingana is where I've always felt connected to our ancestors and our old people. Every organism that's ever existed in Lutruwita, the spirits of those organisms, the flora, the fauna, the fungi, and the people, the palawa. Our spirits will reside in Warrankili, in the sky, forever. And it's through these traditional locations where we're able to connect to our creation stories and to the spirits that have always, for 2,000 generations, passed on knowledge to our people. And this has been an amazing opportunity to pass those stories on, and that legacy of knowledge onto the wider community. And so it is a real privilege to be a part of that chain of knowledge that goes back further than it is hard to comprehend, that's for sure. An exceptionally long time. We have been here for always, living on the land, living sustainably, and it's the use of fire and the flow of water are exceptionally important components, because they have always been sacred to the palawa. They allow us to create a safe environment for the plants and the animals, and as well as our community, regulating the environment so it remains healthy, because a healthy environment means a healthy community, and that is a big part of palawa culture that I like to embrace every single day.
Awesome. Every aspect of this design has a meaning and a purpose, and there's one special one in there that is a small line in the space, but it means a lot to you, Jai. Do you want to tell us about that?
Yeah, so one of the really, one of the details of this design that I'm very proud of is there. You'll notice that as we've tried to create that creation story, there is a silhouette in the centre of a face, and that face is actually the face of my Ningi, my mother, and that's something that hopefully will allow her and our rest of our family to be represented, because they have played an exceptionally huge role in me being able to develop my cultural identity and my cultural knowledge, and allow me to connect with country in the same way as my old people, which is a privilege and an honour.
Oh, thanks. So the part of why did we want to do a t-shirt? And for me, that's because this is a national, and even we do have a couple of internationals coming in, and that design, that Tasmanian palawa design, will then go out across the seas, the Bass Strait Sea, of course, and internationally, and people will wear them when running out in all of these different places, and I really hope that it'll start a conversation. It was like, wow, that's amazing. Where's that from? It's from Tasmania, and and yes, there's a very strong Aboriginal community and culture still very present in Tasmania, and from what I can see is growing stronger and stronger in every day, and super stoked that we can help share conversations starting in other places as well.
And it's such a great theme, like every step a story, because we as community members here in Lutruwita understand that more than I think anyone, whereas it's very rare that we get the opportunity to share the stories in the same way we do. So to have it out there on people that actually understand and connect in the same way with those same values through running, or through whether it be running or walking or just being on country, that's a really beautiful aspect to this whole kind of event, and one of the reasons why I really put my hand up and thought I'd really like to contribute, because of that aspect of being able to share our story and to share the true history of Lutruwita and the Palawa people here in Tasmania.
Yeah, awesome. And I must say, trail running for me, and I know for a lot of other people as well, it's immersing in country, immersing in the landscapes and breathing in all the smells. You can breathe sights, I'm sure, and really melding in and working with and flowing with the landscape, because otherwise it'll eat you up. Like the really technical trails out there, unless you connect with it, it's just going to eat you up, and you fall all over the place. Falling's fine as well, but connecting with place, and then when you're exercising and pushing yourself physically and also mentally to deal with being out on course for many hours, or out in the landscape for many hours running, you need to connect with yourself to be able to do that sustainably. And then that deeper sort of connection with yourself when you're already connecting with country is, for me, like hugely profound. And then you share these events with people. Sometimes you go out running by yourself, and that's a different experience, but I absolutely love running with people and that community, and sharing that experience of
that journey is quite wonderful, isn't it? Takes you to a very different level, spiritually, but also physically, and the way that you connect with space and with others. And that's something that the Aboriginal community have always had. And that's one of the beautiful values of country, and what needs to be protected, so that we can always, not just within the Aboriginal community, but within all of the communities across our landscapes, have that ability to connect in that way.
Yeah. And I'm so stoked that trail running is a form that seems to work with that and that connection.
One of the core components of palawa culture is there is no real differentiation between you and the environment around you. It's all just an extension of ourselves, and the health of one is regulated by the other. And if we don't maintain a sustainable lifestyle like the old people, this all won't last long. So it's a big part of passing on those values to the wider community, understanding that if we can live harmoniously as the Muwanina and the Mumira have in this part of the world, in this part of Lutruwita, for an exceptionally long time, then there isn't any reason why that balance can't push through into future generations and just grow stronger, and hopefully provide a really bright future for the palawa and the wider community.
We've all said it's a privilege, and that's something we all share. I'm learning every minute that we spend here together, and me on this journey of delivering this event for our entire community. Learning about these stories and the connections of country and community. I grew up in Waterworks Reserve, which the run actually... no, not in the reserve, it's just down the road. The run passes through, and spent a lot of time up on Kanani as a kid, but always knew there was so much more.
Yep.
As a kid growing up in Tasmania, there was a big part of cultural history missing in my upbringing, and it's beautiful to have this opportunity to now start to learn some more, and look, this is the personal why. If I'm going to learn, I want to share that for a better connection and more holistic connection of our entire community together. So thank you so much.
Welcome.
No worries. Nari Nanatu, thank you.